consciousness on case, topicality.
Wait, what's
Yep.
on top?
Yep, that's it. That's all I need, right?
Wait, where's future wars? Future wars.
Right, antimatter, right, antimatter, right.
Then where?
Future wars, consciousness on case.
Future war, consciousness on case, and then topicality.
Oh, this is the same page. Good.
That's all right, dude. I think Al's getting picked on way too much. That doesn't mean it's not true, they just shouldn't say it. Off the top on future weapons. My first response would be they're certainly not solving for research for it, right? Second response is as soon as I take out consciousness, that means they're not solving at all for the motivation for conflict. And at that level, there will certainly be a risk of future wars. And to the extent that we win risk of future wars, you would want an all-out nuclear war as opposed to a deton, right? So at that level, we're winning comparative advantage, at least getting presumption on the debate. That's what I want. Consciousness on case. Everybody there? You there, Jim? Yep. Last response out of Dan's mouth in cross-examination is that what is this? The terrorists, like many people, perceive that one deton won't end the world. Indicates to me consciousness shift will not be universal, right? He says people perceive this is true. Second level will be this is an absolute argument in terms of terrorists, right? He's saying that terrorists don't believe this. Indicates to me that if I can bring you a link to terrorists getting antimatter weapons, independent of anybody else who might get consciousness take out, this is an independent flip, right? Because I'll read that on this will be extended actually off topicality. Next response proves that this is not a universal consciousness, right? So as soon as I win that risk, right, then the risk of our solvency is certainly better than theirs, and you vote for us. Specifically off of his argument off of the time frame card, which I first say it's a conclusionary card, and he says no, it's not true, it's 24-hour consciousness. That is a garbled card. The card says that there's 24 hours, it's going to be a different world the next day. That is certainly not a response that gives you any indication of global consciousness, right? That is certainly a ridiculous argument. Next to the point is there's no indication that everybody in the world would know about it the next day, right? I mean, I think that if you really want to get into this debate, there are certainly some arguments about how people couldn't find out about it because communication would be knocked down. I mean, I think there's some reasonable policy arguments why it would be impossible, right? Even if they would like, you would presume they would, there are some reasons why they wouldn't. Off of his second response, which says, yeah, it's a different place, and this is how I'm supposed to take out my response. No way, I am saying that a different place does not mean that that is a consciousness, right? We are granting it to be a different place, but we are arguing that it wouldn't be as good as if we allowed it to get to a position where we have a full-out nuclear war, and that would be the only way we would get true consciousness. They're getting something less than consciousness. Off of his next, which says we don't overclaim, and he extends the second and third cards. My first response says, yeah, it's overclaimed. I'm explaining that. Secondly, the cards are not saying anything more, right? It's just explaining that there will be a different approach to militarism, but that is not an overnight global consciousness. And to the extent that he's claiming it is global consciousness, indicates to me that they are not getting that. And at that level, that's a solvency takeout. And it also gives impetus to our off-case position. On T. Off the violation, hit off the little one at some point. He says my burden and terrorists would perceive this. My first response would be that no, I am making a delineation below and I'll explain this. Secondly, I will be arguing that he can only defend one, he can't defend all because that's delimitation of the resolution, which is the essence of the violation. Off my second, which is ex-topicality. He says it's topical at the link level, not the impact level. My first response would be that would certainly be an ultimate delimited resolution, right? As long as they get a link at the resolution level, then they could run anything they want. And that delimits the resolution, right? And at that level, that's what the argument is because the standard is limitations, right? He is punning out of the standards, he's granting the standards, so at that level, this is a violation, right? New responses out of Al's mouth will be new, right? And you will just forget them.
And high-pitched.
And high-pitched, yeah. Off the third, he says it's grammatically precise, and he gives two levels. My first response to this will be below, and I'll explain it on the violation. I want to get on the violation itself. He says is conscious. I'm explaining this below. Next to the point is I will explain below. His next response is that it is direct. I will explain this below as well. I want to extend his third and fourth cards, which say that the terrorists will want to use weapons, right? And they will always have an impetus for action. I will extend. Antimatter weapons are ideal for terrorists. From Proximity 5. The antimatter bomb cannon, the words of the New York Times article. You read that one?
Yeah.
Cool. Cross out that card.
I read all of them.
You read all of them? Well, then why'd you give them to me? Cross apply. My job just got a lot easier because see, I was expecting to have to read all this stuff. That's really cool.
No,
because I want you to cross-apply past arguments to say that these are ideal for terrorists, and I am giving you an absolute link off of the consciousness argument to terrorists. Independent of any other arguments, that's an absolute link to the argument. Now all I have to do is this violation. Very cool. off of his argument on 3 levels. My first response is that when you deal with things on 3 levels, then that he can be topical at any of those levels, and that delimits the resolution. He can be this, he can be that, he can be that. That is a delimitation. And next, that is decreased accuracy, because my argument is that is an inaccurate interpretation of the resolution, because then in rebuttals or in debate rounds, you can say that I am this, or I am that, or I am this, and it is not precise, and it is not exact, and it is not accurate. And at that level, it is still a violation. My next subpoint will be that that is a delimitation of the resolution, because they are in fact being a reaction. I'm explaining very clearly that these people are not actually solving for the situation, and independent of whether I lose my initial violation, which is response, it is still a delimitation of the resolution. I think that's very clear about an issue. I want to extend my little c, which is that it's a delimit because of it is a reaction by the terrorists, not anything else. It is not conscious reply. It is not some sort of solution to the problem. And it is not indicating that nuclear war, a nuclear detente would ever solve the problem. I want to extend my last, which is that it decreases accuracy. He doesn't contest it as a voting issue. I think that if you don't want to wade through all of the arguments that are in the debate round right now, this is a very easy way out. Independently, there's a link to antimatter, which doesn't get you responses.